Hi, Just here, and today I'm going to show you how to write an about page for yourself or for your company without using such boring words as philosophy, mission, vision, but still how to find the words to communicate your value, maybe even things you stand for to your prospects without boring them to death. How to keep yourself relevant, how to project these selling points you have on your about page, and most importantly, how to structure it. I will show you the simple structure, and then I will show you the super simple process to uncover the words that belong on your about page, and also uncover the words that do not belong there. I will start with reviewing an about page I wrote for one of my favorite clients, Wim Kerkhoff, who runs several IT consultancies. We wrote two websites together. I enjoyed our collaboration a lot, especially because Wim really trusted me and let me do a lot of things and introduced new, non-boring, non-conventional ideas to his copy. So let's dive right in, and after that, I will show you the sneak peek backstory of this page, how the words came into existence, and how you can use the same process to uncover your own effect. Okay, so this is the page for a consultancy Wim runs called Crafty Penguins. They provide Linux services. And we start with showing their faces right away on the page. If you can do that, for some maybe bigger teams it's not possible, but it's always advisable to show human faces because you can write as many words as you like, but one picture is still worth more in this sense if you show a person's face, right? It projects trust immediately. It also lets your prospect assess the age of your employees. For example, if you being a super young company is a concern, you can also take care of that. But let's look at the banner copy. A team of IT experts in Canada working with Linux since 1994, focused on details, patient and friendly, zero fragile egos, lots of facial hair. The only thing that had nothing to do with what their prospects care about is the facial hair thing. I will come to this in a minute. But every word otherwise came from us asking a question: what do your prospects care about? What are they afraid of? What do they expect from an ideal IT partner to be and to do? Of course, they wanted to know that they are based in Canada, and they also needed to know the prospects, that this firm wasn't found yesterday. Then I also asked them, okay, so what do people complain about? Because often the prospects of them are those who are searching for a new IT provider. They're not happy with their current one. And Wim told me that, big problem is IT staff not being friendly, not being patient enough, and, not caring about the business and just being some kind of a vendor, not a partner. And another thing, he also said that, it's really hard to talk to IT staff from the point of view of prospects because they get defensive very quickly. So everything you see here, you may think, man, how important is focus on detail, patient friendly. Anybody can say this about themselves. We are going to prove it actually on the copy, like implicitly. But this was important to their prospects to know that. And when we did customer interviews, this is what people pointed out about their staff. They said, these are very patient people, super friendly, focused on detail, care about our business. So we used these words. About the loss of facial hair, this was the offset, the zero part, because sometimes one uses a construct like every bit of this, none of that. Zero this, hundreds of that, or lots of this, none of this, everything of that. So this is just for balance, for rhythm, and so on and so forth. Like just, let's say, copywriting technique, if you will. I told Wim that it was optional. He didn't have to use lots of facial hair, but this is actually what came to mind. And also Wim is a witty person, and his team, I think, also are witty people. So we also tried to infuse this little light-hearted humor whenever it was appropriate, because humor is always very tricky. So after this banner, there is a section that explains what they do in very simple words. Maybe for you, you're reading it like, oh my God, these are not simple words. But believe me, for the prospects of their company, these are simple words. They understand what Linux, IT consulting, Windows, Slack, Wiki, they know about these things. And here already we are talking about one of their value proposition, that they are like this dual team. They have Linux and Windows expertise, and this is kind of a one team, two divisions, and it's important for their clients to know that. We also mentioning a couple of important things that the customers, prospects look for. But okay, here this is the section where I just say, okay, this is exactly what we do, right? And now we come to the section that I really like, because I think on the original page, it was again mission, philosophy, vision. Then Wim sent me a presentation where it was like our mission, our philosophy. But what I understood and I also learned is that it is important for your company's employees, to know what is your internal mission, what kind of difference you're trying to make as a team. It's really important internally. But it's really not important the way you put it, our mission, our philosophy for your prospects. So I decided to turn it around and just express. I kept asking myself and Wim and his employees, why should your prospects care about your mission, about your vision, about your philosophy? And then we distilled it to a couple of things that are important for both, for the team internally and for the prospects to know. It's kind of selling points of Vim explained through their values as well. We earn your trust. Trust is super important for his prospects, because they let these people deal with the IT systems. And if they mess it up, the company can't operate. So trust is super important. And we don't say, you can trust us, because this is like, why? Why should I trust you? I just met you. So we put it as like, we earn your trust, which is like plausible. This you can believe. Yes, these people will do something to earn the trust. This will then describe, will like prove how we're gonna earn your trust, and we lean into challenges. This was an important part, that we will admit that if it's a difficult task or an unknown task that we don't know, we're not gonna keep you in the dark, we're not gonna stall. These also was things that are like super important for their prospects. We look at a bigger picture and we constantly improve. I left it to the fore. I didn't wanna, still prospects don't care about you that much. And although we're phrasing it in a way that we hope it's important to their prospects to know that, this company it puts trust first. They really would like a trust-based relationship with us, with the prospects, that they are fine with challenges, they look at bigger picture, and they constantly improve. I don't even want the prospects to, read this copy. I mean, sure they can, but it's not important. I'm saying not important. Of course it's important, but the thing is, even as a skimmer, somebody who scrolls fast will be able to distill the value out of it. And then meet our team. And there we used a lot of pictures. We had a section about Vim, because he's a personality. And I think even if you're a company, if you can do that, if you're like a small company or some kind of international something, it's great if you have a leader who has personality, who can, say a couple of words from his own point of view. This sentence originally read, our mission is to unlock potential for our clients. I changed it to our goal to make the word more neutral. Because, the moment mission, everybody just goes into hibernation. Our goal, okay, your goal, some people will read, some not, some will scroll down. And then we did the pictures for the team. Vim really went through trouble to do a completely new photo shoot for the people. And we rewrote all the bias from 5-6 paragraphs per person. We distilled it into a couple of lines, just a paragraph. And I asked specifically, what are the areas of expertise? What is the value a person bringing to the team? What will this person do for the client, right? And this is how we wrote the bios. Not, he enjoys skiing, he enjoys snowboarding and whatever. Nobody cares about that, especially if you have multiple team members. So after we introduced the team, actually here you can just stop me. There's this really end of page structure. Why is a simple structure? What we did though, as a thing that was... how should I say, we came up with this because Wim was saying, okay, people ask me about this. I have prospects who ask me about detail qualification of the staff. So we created a lead magnet, which I said, okay, we have a PDF where each person's skill is detailed like this. There's even a sample that you can still read, and they can download team member profiles. It may not be interesting for you, but maybe it can be interesting for you. If you get prospects that ask you about the same thing all over again, put it in PDF, make it a lead magnet on the about page. If you're not doing this, this is the time to put call to action and say, contact us, I don't know, whatever. We decided this to be a call to action. And that was it, actually. So let's look at it in detail. Let's zoom in on that. Let's look at the structure, and let's look at how you can also find out the words that will be effective for your prospects. Okay, so let's look at the page structure that I used for this page and that you can use for your own about page. You start with a banner copy that should be super clear and tell people who you are as a person, if you're a freelance or one-person business, or what you are as a company, plus 1 to selling points. We had more selling points because our selling points were super short, like friendly, based in Canada, and so on and so forth. But yours selling points may be longer, so just see that it's not overwhelming, 1 to sentences, most. Then next section starts a conversation. You show your prospect that you understand their problems and you give them more relevant details about who you are. You can maybe go back to the copy of the page. I left the link in the video and see exactly how it's done, because I didn't talk about that in while I was describing the page. And then you talk about your main selling points. Make sure that it's something that is super important to your customers. But okay, to this we will come in a second. I will show you how to uncover this, because okay, sure, you need to make sure it's important to your customers. Okay, but how do you know what's important, right? That's the main question. So main selling points, I think this is the most tricky part. What are you supposed to include? How do you know that? But okay, I will help you figure this out by the end of the video. And then you introduce your team. If you have a team, if it's just you, you should introduce yourself in the banner or really close to the top of the page. And then relevant details. I already told you that no life stories, only the points about your team members that are important to your prospects, that will make them relate to you more, respect you more, like you more, trust you more, and want to give you their money more, right? Okay, so then call to action. Don't forget the call to action. Many about pages just forget call to action, but it's still, about page is still okay. People sometimes it's called discovery page because people discover more about your company, but it doesn't excuse not having a call to action, because if about page is usually second or third page on the website, it's very often it goes like this: some landing page, homepage, about page, or homepage, about page, then something else. From what I saw from my experience, looking at the data from consultancy websites, service provider websites. So it's possible that a person already thinking about hiring you. So just give them a shortcut to do that. Okay, but the $1 million question remains: how to find the right words to fill out this bloody structure. That's the most painful thing you may think. I hope you won't think like this anymore after you watch this. How to uncover the best words and phrases to describe your company. It's really very easy, but just for the clarity, best words doesn't mean the most fanciest words, the words that sound best. It's the words that increase your chances to convince your prospects to hire you. And you start with either asking your prospects about this, or just putting yourself in their shoes and completing these sentences for them. I didn't like that the last person company I worked with was, if they're switching providers. Or I'm afraid this person the company will be. And you may see answers or come up with answers like, I'm afraid they will be unfriendly. Person I worked with before couldn't handle critique and missed deadlines. Or I'm afraid they will keep me in the dark and I wouldn't know what's happening. Or they will refuse to explain things to me. And then you invert this to make it positive, because you don't want to say we are not unfriendly. We won't miss deadlines. You would like to talk about yourself in positive terms. So it would be then friendly, handles critique well, reliable, blah, 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 which doesn't mean that you should use the exact opposite. You can rephrase it to mean the same thing. Depends on, how the sentence flows. Talking about yourself and saying, I handle critique well, it's kind of odd way to say that, point blank, but maybe you can come up with another version that says this, implicitly. You just need to be aware of points like these, and then think about the best words to project the same meaning. This was the first step. The second step you complete these sentences. It's important to me that this person, company is or does. I think it was just one sentence, should say one sentence. And then you think about what was important for your prospects when they're making a decision to hire a company like yours. What's important? What's decision criteria? In our particular example, it was that this company is based in Canada, that it wasn't found yesterday, that it's detail oriented, cares about our business, and the prospects can trust them. This was a couple of things that were important. There were more things that were important. You will uncover different ones. It's like really very contextual and depends on your niche and prospects and so on and so forth. And of course, the same story, you combine both lists, the one that you got before. Of course, there will be some overlap there. So then you clean it up and you keep it in mind while you write your copy, right? Let's come back to the page. I don't want to open the page. Let's just do it here in the slides. How did we use these words that we uncovered in the copy? When you look at the banners, I already told you, like literally everything is what important to the prospects, except of the facial hair. But this was just for the copy to sound prettier. We are not losing anything. We're adding humor. It's not, it just becomes a bit more human, the copy. Another example you will see as the first selling point in the selling point section, that we told them that the staff cares about your project, they listen to you carefully. You see, these are implicit things that implicitly project what we just collected. We're not saying we won't be rude or something. Yeah, we say we will listen to you carefully, ask questions, follow through with our promises, which is what's important is that you use very specific phrasing. If you just say we are I don't even know, we'll just actually one could maybe just find one word that describes all of that. We're patient, or it's maybe good for the banner copy where you just giving them an overview of what you are, but to prove that you really are that patient person. This is actually how patience happens. They listen to you carefully, they ask questions, and this is now not about patience anymore, it's about transparency. But these are all things that are important for the customer that we uncovered using that process, right? This is how we incorporate this in the copy. And the another thing is unrelated to the process. It's like a bit a copywriting tip, so to speak, is okay, when you told them these important things that you assume they care about, for the people who may not care about these points, because your prospect base is versatile. Maybe you're dealing with prospect that is not aware that this is important. Can happen. We assume it's not the majority, but for those who are not aware why this is important, we also tell them why it's important. So you can look at this as feature, listen to it carefully, it's a feature of our staff, and then you tell them why it's important, right? So you pair it with benefit. Okay, but what about the worst words? How do you know that the words you already chosen for your page? Probably a lot of you already have about pages. How to uncover the words that were not good and pinpoint them and say, okay, these words, we need to do something about them. Same story. How will your prospects complete these sentences? It goes without saying that this person, company is blah. I don't care that this person, company is blah. This is some about pages are just an answer to this particular sentence. I don't believe that this person, company is something, and I don't understand what that means. These are a lot of questions, right? We had just 3 questions to uncover the positive things, and now 4 questions to uncover things that do not belong to your about page. And I wanted to give you a couple of examples. It goes without saying that this person is friendly, doesn't miss deadlines, reliable. But wait, didn't I just tell you this matters? Sure, in some context it matters, like it mattered for Wim's company. But for example, if you are for an established freelancer who is famous or at least semi-famous, they really don't need to say that they're friendly or don't miss deadlines or they are reliable. It goes without saying, right? I couldn't come up with other examples, to be honest. I don't know, I had the brain freeze. But I'm sure you can think of things that fall under this category for you. What do your prospects already assume about you, and there is no question that they know you would be X, right? So these are the words you shouldn't use on your about page. I don't care that your employees wrote so many lines of code, drank that many cups of coffee, want to help 1,000 companies as their mission, pride themselves on some stuff. Nobody cares. so often they also don't care about philosophy, vision, or that you or your employees have hobbies, kids, pets. But in some cases, it is important for philosophy and vision, maybe for non-profits, for if your prospects make a buying decision depending on your philosophy and vision. If you're 100% sure that the majority of your prospects would like to know what kind of a philosophy your company has, what kind of vision and mission, you should put it on the page. Same story about hobbies, kids, pets. I think it's really important, for example, for psychiatrists, maybe like people that they have services and they are like part of the product, right? And the personal connection is really important for the collaboration to be successful. Then it may be important. Maybe for freelancers, a line about your hobby, kids, and pets could make you more likable, more human. That's totally fine, but you shouldn't overdo it. And just to just to be clear, I'm not saying that you can never, ever, ever, ever mention anything that your prospects don't care about. Of course you can, but it really is a matter of balance. 90% on stuff that's on about page should be things that your prospects care about, and then 10% is reserved for you to tell them whatever you want them to tell. The joke that nobody else understands except of you, and so on and so forth. I'm just wondering, is employees spelled correctly? It's too many E's. I don't know. Anyways, third question was, I don't believe that your service as a company are, oh my God, best in class, groundbreaking, top notch, unparalleled, revolutionary. I will be reviewing a website next week, and I already sent out a questionnaire, and it was the about section on the home page, and they were like, we have unparalleled services, top-notch resources, best in class. And I asked, can you prove that? And they're like, no. So what's the point of putting it there? You can't prove it. Your prospects are not going to believe it. What's the point of having these words there? Not to mention that so many companies have these words here. So these words, phrases, people are not going to believe, do not belong on your about page. If you want them to believe, if something is super unbelievable, like let's say you can say you are award winning, you should ask yourself, is it important to your prospects? If yes, immediately provide the proof. What kind of award do you want? And make sure it's relevant. It's not like for the best lone Mona in the neighborhood or whatever. And last but not least, happens very often, words that people do not understand what they mean. Actually, these kind of words belong to none of your pages, not only about page. But just to name a couple of examples from my recent work, digital transformation firm. Do your prospects understand? How many percent of the prospects understand? The answer was 40%. It's not enough. Disrupting. Nobody exactly knows what that is, Or HV tech enabled. I ask sometimes if prospects, I always ask, if I don't understand, I immediately ask, will your prospects understand? Or if I understand, but I think the prospects won't understand, I always ask, because sometimes it's just my lack of knowledge in this particular niche, and they say, yes, this means this, and the prospects will understand, but it happens super seldomly. So almost every time I pick up a word that I say, will people understand that? The answer is very often no. So I really assume a lot of words like this sit on your websites as well. Or stuff like high-end software products. What is this? Software products that walk on high heels. I have no idea. High-end software products. What does that mean? Sorry. Rant almost over. So just to uncover, to how should I say, not uncover, but the test for these words, would your prospects understand? Just ask yourself, how many percent of your prospects will understand this term? If the answer is less than 90%, this does not belong on your website, right? You need to rephrase it. If it's important for your prospects, or you think it's important, just phrase it in human words without industry jargon, right? Just explain what that means, and maybe people will value it. At least they will understand, right? Okay, that's it for today. I hope that after you watch this video, you will find writing about pages less overwhelming, and most importantly, you will be able to write better about pages. If you want more practical tips on how to create a better website, check out my book, Making Your Website Work, 100 Copy and Design Tips for Smart Business Owners, available on Amazon as paperback and Kindle, anywhere where Amazon is available, and available for all other countries all over the world on Gumroad. I will leave you the link in the description to this post.